Hello everyone, it's Alan Shimel, DevOps.com, DevOpsTV, and we're here in Nice for DevOps World, Jenkins World, in our broadcast booth here on the show floor. And I'm happy to be joined actually by a friend of mine from the DevSecOps world, Ilkka Turunen.
That's it.
I got it right.
You got it right. First time.
I was going to say after our sixth interview maybe,
Well,
but first time today.
Well,
Excellent.
I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, and of course Ilkka is a security engineer with Sonatype.
Yep.
And just really one of the nice people in the DevSecOps space that I actually like listening to because I learn things. So Ilkka, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you here. Ilkka, I want to talk a little DevSecOps.
That's what we're all about.
That's what you're about. Well, first of all, we should mention you guys, Sonatype and the team just finished up All Day DevOps. Another great lineup and success.
That is a monumental task for the guys behind it, for the guys and gals who ran the whole thing. So educational, and I haven't even finished watching half of the videos. It's so much good content.
I was logged into the DevSecOps track, and I listen to as much as I can, but it's hard. You know, first of all, it's 24 hours, and second of all, I have a job to do in the middle too, which made it harder. But
yeah, what I really enjoy about it though is you see like the differences between different parts of the world. So we start off early UK time, so we see people from Asia, from India. We kind of wake up with the Americans, you know, start seeing, you know, that sort of that differences in that part of the world, and we kind of finish with Australia again as well. I always find it quite interesting kind of seeing how the kind of conversation differs, you know, because it is different between different parts of the world.
It's different but the same. I mean, It's a small world and it's getting smaller.
Every day.
The other thing, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but the other thing is, you know, you mentioned those, let's call them learning centers, right? But we're not seeing a lot of representation from, let's say, South America or Africa, or even the Middle East for that matter, and, you know, with the exception of maybe Israel, right, because there's such a presence in cyber. So there's still plenty of room to grow there.
Totally. We had a campaign this year to reach 1 million people. Next year, I'm sure we're going to move ahead and be even more ambitious with that. So looking forward to that.
But look, I wanted to spend the bulk of our time really grinding into DevSecOps a little bit. You know, I've been formulating this kind of new theory in my head, and it goes to the heart of what is the function of security in DevSecOps. Right? It's not just putting security between Dev and Ops. What is our function? And in my mind, there's sort of two camps. There's what I call the deity or the deitist function, which is security's there to kind of be the precursor, to set the rules, right? We set the rules of the game, or maybe we're the guardrails around the Autobahn, and then we just tell the developers, have at it, go as fast as you want, right? We've set these bumpers in place, we've set these rules, and as long as you stay in there, you're good, right? That's one view.
Yeah, I think you know that's the kind of the guardrails view of like, okay, you want to go fast, you want to break things, fine, break things, but you know you're always going to have some set level of criteria within certain
you
things.
can only play within this, you know, defined world. My other view is what I call the security activist.
Yeah,
and that's someone who truly is integrated into the DevOps team. And recognizes that just like everything else in DevOps, it's a continuous process of improvement. There's no way you could ever put guardrails in place that are going to last too long because just stuff happens, things change, right? And we need to be constantly improving, constantly iterating. We've got to have our hand in the pot.
Yeah, I feel like you know that's the difference between traditional security and DevSecOps in general, right?
Yeah.
Because DevSecOps, the reason why it's called that is because what we want to do is adopt these sorts of principles of continuous learning and improvement. You know, it's really more about the journey for the entire team, not just the developers to become more security aware, or the operations team to become more hardened within their environments. It's all about kind of constantly learning from one another and helping come up with ways that's meaningful for each of them. One of the big things that I've really noticed around this space, actually Shannon Leeds from Intuit, who's behind the whole movement, she always says that security people don't want to become developers don't want to become security people. So it's all about the interplay of continuously improving together as a team, becoming a kind of greater part of the whole. I think the problem is so that's kind of the vision, that's kind of the, how would I call the kind of pure play DevSecOps vision that everybody wants to go to or should kind of constrain to or aspire to. But to your example, this kind of ivory tower example of, hey, we know better and we're going to tell you exactly how to do it because we have seen it all and we shall proclaim the rules. That actually plays to the old world. It really is what we see when we look at companies that are kind of just beginning to explore this concept of how do I make my developers more security aware. So it kind of seems like a very natural thing to do, to start just plugging some guardrails in and saying hey, now we're DevSecOps because we got these things chucked on the floor, but it kind of fails to see the bigger picture of no, it's actually also about you guys evolving with your developers or with your operations and finding better ways of interacting with them. So I'm kind of with you. I feel like the second part of it is where it should go and what people should strive to be. But the kind of ivory tower example is probably where people usually begin.
Yeah.
When they're trying to kind of figure out how to kind of get along with this.
I will tell you that part of it also is that the guardrails or the security dietists, if we can call them that, it fits into that security mindset, which is they're introverted, they don't want to be, they relish being other, right? They don't want to be part of this group. So by setting those guardrails and then sort of stepping back, they continue that otherness. Well, and they don't get integrated.
Well, the good news though is we had this exact same conversation with DevOps itself, right?
Yeah,
we
did. You're right.
We kind of had that period between kind of the forward lookers in both the dev and the ops community that said, hey, actually software-defined networking is a thing and it actually makes all of our lives easier. And that's really, I think, the key here as well is finding those brave individuals in each of those camps and really starting to find those better ways of collaborating with those people. And what typically tends to happen is the large contingent of this is how we've always done it starts seeing the incremental gains over in this new world and starts moving over. I think it's going to be pretty much exactly the same kind of transition as we saw in DevOps as well.
I would hope so. I hope so.
It's going to be subtle. It's not going to be something that's going to be a big bang. I mean, obviously now we talk about DevSecOps a lot compared to last year, and I'm sure we're going to keep talking about it. Next year it's just going to be yet another term that everybody just kind of agrees on. So I feel like once we get past that peak of hype and people actually start forming these experiences, that's really when we're going to get the best results. We're going to start seeing that mature behavior, and that's I'm quite confident that as an industry we're getting there.
Well, I hope so. You're much more of an optimist than me.
Well, hey.
I think we will get there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not that pessimistic, but I just think we have a lot of hard work on both sides of the equation ahead of us.
Absolutely.
And I also do think we still have a definition problem in terms of saying DevSecOps, but what we mean by it are certainly two different things.
Yeah, I feel like the danger, we're kind of in that same danger zone as DevOps was 5-6 years ago, where we have this kind of cargo form of DevSecOps kind of forming, right?
Right.
The cargo culture DevOps was a big talk in its day, and it's kind of like the same phenomenon of cargo culture DevSecOps is kind of forming. Practices that kind of feel like they're in the right direction,
but they're not.
But they're probably improvements to what you're doing today, but they're nothing compared to the kind of incremental and exponential gains that you might get with true DevSecOps practices. So I feel like for us as an industry, the next couple of years, we're really going to have to find ways of seeing past the immediate actions and really kind of stopping people from falling into the trap of remaining in that kind of cargo culture form of it. Because I feel like it's being spoken about. There's a lot of like traditional tools and practices that are kind of just being fit into a DevSecOps form. And what we now want to do is really kind of take the next step and make sure that everybody kind of keeps track of like that this journey is not just about plugging in a couple of tools and calling it a day and saying now we're DevSecOps all the way.
And we're done. Yeah, and that is it. Ilkka, we're about out of time though.
Perfect. Well,
hey, it was a pleasure having you here.
Thanks for having me.
You'll be on my panel here at DevOps World. I hope people come out to see that. But for now, this is Alan Shimel, DevOps.com, DevOpsTV, here in Nice, France for DevOps World and Jenkins World. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks.
Okay, cheers. Did we
Cheers.
hit that 12 minutes or so?
Yeah, that's 11 minutes.